Well, I'm delighted to be joined here today by Yvonne and Rebecca, who are two of this year's Oxygen influencers. Welcome, Yvonne and Rebecca.
Thank you, Doug.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. So, first question, you were both put forward for Oxygen influencers for the amazing things you've done when it comes to bringing fresh talent into the industry, but also developing talent when it's in the industry. So, first question, Rebecca. People talk a lot about Softcat's ability to bring fresh talent into the industry. They talk a lot about the culture. So can you tell us more about Softcat's secret sauce there?
Yeah, sure. So we have always had a commitment to early careers ever since the company was founded. It was all about bringing graduates in back then. That has changed a lot over time. So we've now got a very successful apprenticeship program as well. More recently, we started our internship program, which has gone really well. And we've also got a formal work experience program as well. So probably about half the people we bring into the company every single year are early careers people. And that is a huge part of the culture, right? So as an HR person, it makes me a bit nervous having so many young people in the business. But what's great about it is that we can really mold people and shape their careers right from the beginning. And that's why we don't tend to hire people from competitors or other companies in the industry, because we almost just want them to learn what it's like through our processes, our recruitment processes, our induction, our training and development, and shape them into people who behave in the Softcat way and behave in the way that aligns to our values. And when you bring people in from outside of Softcat, from the rest of the industry, you end up getting people who maybe aren't the best culture fit, and that's not really worked for us in the past. So a huge commitment to early careers and making the culture fit work with those people from school or university.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and if there was an award for the company that brought the most people into the industry year after year after year, it would have to go to Softcat for sure. I think that's safe to say. But Yvonne, turning to actually developing that talent once it's in the industry, you set up the channel community. Can you tell us what was something like the channel community needed for?
So when I made the conscious decision to leave corporate and start my own coaching business, it was quite obvious from early on that not everyone has the luxury of affording a coach. And unless you work for the big, large corporates or the big vendors, just didn't have access to mentors either. So I tapped up some industry friends of mine who have all been fortunate to have support from like myself and as a group. I said, look, I've got this concept around how can we help give back to that next generation of talent by the way of mentoring, but it's got to be free. We can't charge for it, so that everybody has access to those same opportunities that I've been fortunate to have throughout my career.
Yeah, definitely. And so people talk a lot about the talent shortage. It's nothing new, but it's particularly pronounced right now. So where do you think the channel could do better when it comes to first talent acquisition and retention, but also in areas like coaching and personal development? Where are we going wrong as an industry?
So I think one of the reasons why we over-index on early careers is because it's that grow your own mentality. I think where we've got the skills shortages are in the more niche technical areas or areas where we're looking for people that are fully fledged, trained people. And actually, you end up searching high and low for these skills that exist in only a few people everywhere in the country. And then you think, why don't we just actually bring them in from scratch and train them up ourselves? So, for example, we've just started some more senior level apprenticeships and things like that will actually encourage different type of people into the company. And yes, then it becomes our job to try and retain those people, because we need to make sure that they then don't get poached by our competitors or whatever, and we need to make them sticky and want to stay for a long time at Softcat. But grow your own, for me, is by far the best way to solve the skills shortage by a mile.
Definitely. And Yvonne?
So obviously Softcat do an incredible job, so it's hard to give a comparison, but I think there's lots of organisations that do a good job of looking at transferable skills, where they may look outside of the general talent pool and sort of branch out to other industries that have individuals that have got the skills or the attitudes, and they hire on cultural add, on work ethic and desire to learn, as opposed to a whole list of accreditations and experience that actually has not done so well in the past, because when you hire with experience, that generally comes at a cost. And also with a preconception about what their worth is. I think, if you take what the great work that Softcat's done and you replicate that with people from outside different industries, then you can get the same type of results. But it's just making sure that you fish from a different pond, because it's not a pond, it's a puddle, unfortunately. So you need to try, if you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same result. So how can you branch and widen your net a little bit further?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, an earlier episode of this podcast, we had Ollie and George. Ollie from West Coast, George from Ampito. Ollie was a former carpenter, George was a former teacher. So we are highlighting that as well. But just turning back to graduate and apprenticeship schemes. So what does a best-in-class graduate and apprenticeship scheme actually look like? And you've been at Softcat since 2017 as HR Director and Chief People Officer. Are there any mistakes that Softcat has actually made early on in that journey?
This brings me on to diversity a little bit. So one of the things that we have battled with in early days is hiring a lot of people in our own image. So the traditional people that we would hire from similar universities, similar backgrounds, maybe people whose families worked in the industry, they already know about the IT channel industry, and then you end up with a lack of diversity. So what we've tried to do much more recently is more outreach to local schools that may be more disadvantaged schools, or local schools that have a high proportion of ethnic minorities, for example, so that we are bringing in a different type of people. The problem with that is a lot of people haven't heard of the IT channel industry. So you go into a school and you're met with a sea of blank faces. So then that's on us to try and explain and improve the branding around the industry. And that's for every company in the industry needs to do that, to make sure that people have actually heard of what we do. Because otherwise it's quite an unknown. Being B2B, it's really difficult to get the name of the industry and the great opportunities that the industry presents out there. Like, once you start talking to people about it, they get on board. But because they haven't heard of it in the first place, it's like an uphill battle. So it's great to hear that there are people coming in from other areas, but there is so much more we can do on that in terms of really nailing home what the brilliant opportunities there are available to us in this industry.
Yeah, and that's a great segue for Yvonne as well, because the channel community does have a big emphasis on social mobility.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. I think we were already passionate about it before we knew the stats that were launched or released by the Tech Talent Charter, which said that only 9% of people from low socioeconomic backgrounds are in the channel. Well, mainly in tech, but also the channel, which is ridiculous. That's such a really poor stat. Part of that is, we think, maybe down to data collection. People just don't like to admit their upbringing. But some of that is also to the fact that it is quite, in some areas, elitist still. To Rebecca's point about, you hire people like you from the past, so you have to change how you view that. The Social Mobility Foundation do a great job of trying to highlight that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And a lot of the directors on the channel communities board are actually from working class backgrounds. So for us, it was a no-brainer. How can we help drive and cultivate new opportunities for people from more disadvantaged backgrounds to go on to thrive in our industry?
And we found that as well in our data collection internally. So we did ask our employees to let us know about their backgrounds, and most of them were willing to share, which is great because it means they trust us with that data. And what they were saying is that their backgrounds a lot of the time are not in line with the broader UK population. So more of them have been to private school, more of them have parents that have been to university, more of them didn't have free school meals, the standard questions that you ask about social mobility. And so there is definitely some work there for us to do to mirror the rest of the UK as a whole. And that's always our aim, is to basically look like the UK from a demographics perspective.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's 35% of people across the UK would come from what they mark as a low socioeconomic background or working class. So that's the sort of measure that people aim for. There's one measure that I read quite consistently, is if you can't gather data from all of the facets, because it's quite difficult and challenging, just by asking what the career was of the role, the main earner in your family when you were age 14. So that's just one question. And just by asking that one question can give you a really good baseline as to where they sit, because no one wants to admit they've had a free school meal, or they might not want to admit that they're the first person to go to university. But that one question most people will answer. So it's a really good way of gathering it without being too intrusive, and making people don't feel like they're having to share what they're not that comfortable about.
Yeah, definitely. And on to the two of you personally. So Oxygen Influencers, just to explain, it wasn't me who put forward the 25 people for Oxygen Influencers. It wasn't Nebula. It came from your peers. I asked a load of leaders to put forward people that are driving positive change, but from outside the boardroom. So you were put forward as part of that process. So it'd be really great to reflect on your careers. What would you say, Yvonne, has been your career high so far?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I've probably got two that are relevant to this conversation. One was when I was in the industry, and I was working at Kelway, which, as you may know, got acquired by CW, and we won a Cisco Global Award. And it was incredibly prestigious. We took it actually off CDW, who ended up going on to acquire us because they were the commercial partner of the year. So it was quite a sense of achievement back in the day. And then I think it'd be, sad for me not to say the channel community, and getting that to a CIC, getting it to the state where it's got multiple members, all just, it's so rewarding. The people that we've got on board now are clearly benefiting from it. The case studies and the positive stories that we get off the back of people that are part of it, it's just, it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And Rebecca?
I'll choose two as well. So probably from a personal perspective, a couple of years ago, my team won the Best HR Team of the Year at the CIPD Awards. And the CIPD is the kind of industry, I work in the HR industry awards, and it's basically the most prestigious HR award there is. So I'm never entering any other awards ever again, because we've peaked with that one, which is amazing. And then, to be honest, it's a bit cheesy, but every year at the CRN Women in Diversity and Channel Awards, Softcat, we do really well every year. We touch wood. If there was some wood, I would touch it, that we'll do well again this year. But we always win some company awards, and most importantly, we always win a few individual awards for some of our key women in the business as well. And that night in the calendar every single year is just the most. It's just the most rewarding night, because when I joined 8 years ago, we weren't even talking about diversity. It wasn't a topic. It just wasn't even on our radar. Now, to go from that to kind of consistently being one of the top performing companies at those awards every year is just a buzz.
Yeah, definitely. And what have you both got planned over the next 12 months, finally?
Oh, good question. More of the same. So now we've done a really good job as the channel community of getting really solid foundations in place. Got some amazing sponsors. We've got some, like the podcast launch now, and sort of events scheduled. Just continue to do more of what we've done, but also a massive call out for more mentees, because that's our biggest focus. We've got loads of people wanting to be channel buddies, which is awesome. We just need to attract more of the youngsters, or not necessarily youngsters, people that can benefit from any age, but particularly it's the mentees that we seem to struggle with. So that's going to be definitely our main focus for the next 12 months.
And Rebecca?
So a couple of things. From a Softcat perspective, I've just recently taken responsibility for our offices and our property portfolio, and we're overhauling all of them at the moment in line with our new brand, which is really exciting. So that will take over the next 12 months in terms of growing and expanding some of the offices, and then rebranding some of the existing ones. And then from a personal perspective, I am part of the Tech Channel Ambassadors, which is an organisation put together to try and encourage more young people into the industry. And so I'm very much looking forward to carrying on that work over the next 12 months and see if we can make some real traction and progress.
Fantastic. And then finally on to your walk-on songs. So if I remember rightly, Yolanda Adams, a song from a musical for you, Yvonne?
Yeah, it's from a film. Yolanda Adams, called I Believe.
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I hadn't even heard of this song until quite recently, and my daughter had to sing it at a theatre train activity, and it's the words in it are incredible. So it's all about believing in yourself, even no matter where you come from, that you can achieve whatever you want if you just go for it. So I think from that perspective, that was why I went with that one.
And Rebecca, I believe you went for the 1970s soft rock icon Stevie Nicks.
I wish my reasoning was as good as Yvonne's, but Edge of 17, it's just a cracking song, and it gets played a lot in our household. So it gets me in the mood for going on stage or doing a big presentation or whatever it might be.
So who do you think has got the best walk-on song between
Well, I've never heard of Yvonne's. So
I've never heard of yours either. So we're going to listen now and compare notes. I might change my mind after listening.
Yeah, I'll text you later.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes it. So thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Rebecca.